Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the simulation. My name is Reese, and today is the 10th of December, 2025. And in this episode of the simulation, it's going to be slightly different, although kind of similar to usual. But I've got a kind of prevailing message to share with you. One moment, my audio is a little bit quiet. And what the message is, as you can see by the title, is to enjoy every day, enjoy every moment, and to kind of live life as if the final years of freedom are in the next few years up until 2030. Because as we know, there is a new world order. There is going to be a great reset that takes place in 2030. In 2020, we saw the pandemic, and that was a reset. That was a reset on the economy. That was a reset on people, on the minds of the people, how they interpreted media, how they interacted with one another, how people, digested information. And in 2030, it's going to be another reset. There's going to be another shift in the paradigm of the simulation, of the universe, of the world, which will be the AI global dystopia technocracy that we will change into and we will transition into from what we're living in now. And I made a video recently on TikTok and Instagram talking about the fact that we are living in the good old days. We are living in the good old days right now, and we have been, even in 2020, even in 2008 in the financial crisis, even after 2001, after 9/11. Obviously, not for the people affected by any of these results. Maybe you've got a relative who took the bioweapon and they passed away. I share that. Maybe you have been affected by the global financial crisis. Maybe you can't afford a house. Maybe you can't, afford to do basically anything. And, the life that we live is very difficult at the moment, and it's not easy. And it's not what our previous generations experienced, which was a much easier life, a much more prosperous life, one where you were able to buy a house and a car and feed a family on one salary. And there was no feminism, and there was no corn affecting the minds of young men, and poisoning the future aspects for women, and making it so that there was such a divide between men and women, between different ethnicities, between different religions. But with all of that said, it's still perils, and it's nothing even close to what it's going to be like in the future after 2030, because at that point it's going to shift dramatically. And this is what people have been warning of. Many people, one sec, I'm trying to get the lighting right here. Many people involved in AI have been warning about this. If you look at the people who were involved in the development of OpenAI, and you listen to interviews that Stephen Bartlett has conducted with people who are involved in AI, or even if you just listen to people like Elon Musk in his own words, you will understand that jobs will be replaced by robots. And therefore, there's going to be some sort of there's going to be two options, either depopulation or some kind of universal basic income. Because we're going to be useless eaters. We're going to be, feeding off of the state. We're going to be basically, as I say, useless. And the only way that we really survive is if we are basically just fed income from the state. Universal kind of basic income, as I say. And this is going to ruin the fulfillment for most people. You've just gone and got a degree in accounting or cybersecurity, or a business management degree, or you're a lawyer, you want to become a lawyer, you've got a degree in law. All of these can be replaced by AI. And so where does the fulfillment come from? Where does the purpose come from? Where does the happiness come from? The gratitude, the appreciation for life after 2030 and going into 2040, and in the generation after us? Where does their happiness come from? Where does their fulfillment come from? Does it come from sitting around having everything handed to you by a robot? I don't think so. I personally think that people find a lot of fulfillment doing jobs, whether it's a shitty job or whether it's, quite an enjoyable job. My job is a delivery driver, delivering shopping to people, which is actually quite a fulfilling job, even though it might not sound like it, because you're interacting with real humans on a regular basis. You're providing a service. You're keeping yourself busy. You're keeping your mind occupied. You're keeping your physical body occupied all the time. And it's a reason to get out of bed in the morning, and it's a reason to be kind of active and be involved in the world, and you're actually contributing to society. And so enjoy every day while we still have this life and this society and this way of living. And maybe this sounds like a black pill. Maybe it sounds like I'm giving up and that there's no hope for the future and that it's inevitable. And I wouldn't look at it like that. I prefer to look at it like a white pill. Because, right, one sec. Because otherwise, you're going to be in a perpetual fight. You're going to be constantly, like I've been, I don't know about you, but I have been in a perpetual fight with myself in this mentality where I'm constantly rationalizing whether or not it's even going to be possible. You know, because you have the one hand, well, should I even try and fight? And then the other hand is, well, maybe I'll just let it go. But if you do try and fight, is it even possible to fight back, or are we just cooked? And are we basically just fighting a losing battle, right? And so in order to prevent that, in order to prevent yourself from going insane, I say enjoy, as I say, every day like you've got 5 years left of freedom. Now, it's not to say don't resist digital ID, because we should resist it, and we should be of the mentality at least where we try and fight back and we try and stop the compliance, and people understand the message and they hear intellectual voices and they understand why they shouldn't go along with the government narrative about certain things. And maybe there's room for political discourse, right? And there's room for, you know, debate about what the real problems are, or this or that, right? And I just want to show you a video that I saw recently, because this was kind of, you know, what was reinforcing this belief for me, because I had this belief already. But it was a video that I saw from an account called Dumb Birch Tree, right? So if you take a look at this, right, just listen to this and listen to what she says in this video, because what she says in this video is genuinely concerning. Like I'm not gonna lie, like the fact that people even have this mentality is concerning, and it's black pilling. I'm not gonna lie, but I'm making an overall point about why, rather than looking at it like a black pill, you should look at it like a white pill. And as I say, instead of worry about the future, live in the present and enjoy the present day as much as you possibly can, right? So I just wanted to take a listen to this video just real quick. And look, I'm not trying to hate on Dumb Birch Tree. I don't want to spread negativity, right? I'm not trying to, you know, maybe I've been prone to doing that before. It's just being a bit negative and harping on the negative, but I'm just giving you an example here as to why I'm saying this, right? So just take a listen to this.
To get more anti-AI, like right now, I have just stepped out of my house, and it is.
So she says, actually starts off very promising. She says we need to
Actually
become more anti-AI.
Anti-AI, like right now, I have just stepped out of my house, and it is 25 degrees. It is 25 degrees in the middle of December. I'm sweating. I'm sweating in December. Granted, I am in California, but the point still stands. If you are using AI to make a shopping list or edit photos of yourself for your birthday, you're a loser.
Now, there's a few things that's wrong with this, right? As you may have already deduced. Firstly, you know, I don't really think that climate change is so, like, hyped up to be, you know, what it is hyped up to be. And I don't think it's really humans causing it. And the reason why it's actually getting warmer in the winter, at least in the southeast of the UK, is because they are spraying a blanket over us and it's insulating us when the sun actually does hit. You know, it's kind of insulating all of the heat. Maybe it's different in California, although they have been using weather modifications in California since the 50s. So it's very likely to assume that what she's talking about is a weather manipulation phenomenon. But even if it isn't because of AI. And it isn't, you know, AI is not causing climate change, right? Let's just put it that way. You know, maybe we're using up a lot of water. Maybe it's a bad thing. I do think it's regenerative at some point, and there are positives to it from what I've looked into with regard to AI and climate change. But also, she says that if you're, you know, using AI for these pointless reasons, then stop doing it. You're a loser. Again, one problem is that it's kind of negative. But another problem is that there is an AI race between China and the West. China and the West are in an AI race, like they were in a space race or arms race in the 60s, right? And there's no holding back because they have no concern for the general masses. They, if anything, have contempt for the general masses. And they can only have more contempt for the general masses when they see videos like this, people bugging out about AI because of climate change. If they kind of look at that and think, look, it's really working, the climate change hysteria is really getting to them. Look, again, not trying to hate or anything like that. I'm just being real. I'm just being honest. And so, how are we supposed to really come around to a general consensus, about resisting digital ID when we're up at it from two completely different points? But also, as I just said, China and the West are in a race, an AI race, to make AI as developed as possible, as fast as possible, and it has nothing to do with your average guy going on ChatGPT and creating images about something, and or asking it questions about certain things. Now, what's the point that I'm making here? How is this relevant to the point? Well, previously I would have listened to a video like that and been like, oh man. And I made this point before about Lewis Aaron when he made a video saying, oh, Nigel Farage is a shocking racist. And at first maybe you're thinking, oh man, how do these people even think this? But no, rather than that, actually just enjoy it. Just take a bit of gratitude, firstly, that you're not them, you don't have the mentality. But secondly, okay, yeah, we're at least we're both opposed to AI, and also it's gonna cook us probably anyway, so let's just enjoy every day. Every day is a blessing. You've woken up, you're alive, especially if you're in the West and you do live in the UK, or especially if you live in the Southeast like I do, or wherever, and you're insulated from certain things. You're not getting bombed, you're not in famine. Maybe we will be in the future, but we're not in famine right now. And so having a negative view of the world when it's actually a lot more positive than it could be, and it will be in the future, is very damaging to the actual, the general, prospect of your life, right? If you view the positive as negative, then when it really gets negative, then you're fucked. Then you're cooked. You know what I'm saying? So make sure that whilst we're headed towards the global dystopia, if you are of the view that we're cooked, then you must enjoy every moment of every day for the best. Now, I'm not saying, for example, that you should go and, use all the drugs in the world, and you should go and do degenerate things and stuff like that, right? That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is probably take yourself a little bit less seriously, because this is kind of what I was thinking. I was thinking, why would I really dedicate myself and be extremely disciplined if in 5 years, and restrict my freedoms, like let's say, for example, I was like, I'm not going out anymore because I think drinking is really bad and, smoking is really bad. And I'm not going to go and see my friends anymore because I need to lock in, and I need to be disciplined, and I need to get money, and I need to make a business, or get a degree and get involved in some sort of corporation and work and be something great, and restrict your freedoms, when maybe the better outlook is actually to, as I say, be a bit more loose, be a bit less restrictive, be a bit freer, understand that you're extremely privileged, and understand that you've got a little bit of time left before things become really, really bad. And if you think I'm overblowing this, by the way, because that might be what you're thinking, you might be thinking, well, sounds a bit doomsday, sounds like you're, overblowing things, you're saying that everything's going to be crazy after 2030. This is not what I'm saying. This is what the AI experts have been saying on mainstream podcasts for a very long time. And this is not something that I could even comprehend at all, right? And if we were to be logical about it, the development of AI has most likely been hidden from the masses. It's most likely been disguised as, 2023 we had a few like funny AI images. 2025 it's getting really, really effective. When it's more like 2023 it was really, really effective, and 2025 it's beyond anything we can even comprehend right now. And so we don't even have any idea. We're kind of just sitting ducks at this point. We're just waiting for the tsunami to hit us. It's like the calm before the storm right now. The AI storm is almost, the AI tsunami is almost about to hit. So if the tsunami is almost about to hit, why would you want to take your life so seriously? Why would you want to spend time bugging out about, this politician or that politician, or this viewpoint or that ideology or this or that, when, you could say that things potentially have already been decided for us? So this is kind of like, if you're black-pilled, which is kind of, you maybe say is the mentality that I'm pushing here, is kind of what I'm saying. It's like I'm kind of basically saying that if the AI tsunami and the technocratic dystopia is inevitable, if you're black-pilled, if that's true, then take the white pill. It's, at the same time, and rather than looking at every day as progressively getting towards something worse, think about it as every day is amazing compared to what it might be in the future, and what it might be for our children in the future if we even get that far. And earlier I said, either we're gonna become useless eaters. So it's either gonna be universal basic income or depopulation. And I don't want to be that guy, but the Jaffe memo, which is a population control / depopulation memo, was created by Frederick Jaffe in 1967. And that was the same year that they introduced abortion into the UK and it became legal. And the Jaffe memo has a load of different things. It basically has on the Jaffe memo, it has fertility agents in the water supply, basically all the things that Alex Jones was talking about. And it also basically outlines feminism, remove childcare facilities, make it so that both parents have to work, make it so that there's basically no option other than make it so that the kids have to go into education, right? And it's like state-funded education, and it's obviously indoctrination, and that has kind of come into fruition. So if it's a depopulation agenda that started in 1967, plausibly it's gonna be depopulation, if anything. And then you think about the vaccines, and you think about all of the crime, and you think about immigration, and you think about removing the white ethnicity as the main opposition potentially to the depopulation agenda. So logically speaking, it's probably more likely to be depopulation than universal basic income. Maybe it will start with universal basic income and then it will slowly move its way over to depopulation. But either way, if you're an accountant, your job's gone. If you're a lawyer, if you're a cybersecurity guy doing pen testing, if you're a delivery driver, if you're in business management, if you're in the software engineering, it's all going. It's all going. And the only thing that isn't going to go, realistically speaking, is something that requires humans and human emotion. And what's different from a human to an AI, which is effectively emotion. And you could, I don't know, it's difficult to actually even comprehend. You could, when you think about humanity, what is humanity? Well, you can't really call it IQ, intelligence, because that's what AI has. It's literally AI, artificial intelligence. So it's kind of the emotive element to it. So, maybe a therapist, but even a therapist, but it's not the same. Maybe a musician, maybe someone in the media, but it's difficult to say. So that's kind of what my main message was. But I want to just mainly focus on just enjoying every day, making sure that you don't waste these final few years of freedom. And I don't think it's deniable at this point. I mean, they just removed jury trials. Why would they do that? They're introducing digital ID. Why would they do that? They're putting AI surveillance in this country all around. Why would they do that? Even to monitor emotion. Why? Waymo is coming to this country. It's already in Los Angeles. Waymo is a taxi service that is completely autonomous. Why? You know, warehouses and manufacturing plants are making cars or making what Amazon facilities will be AI. How many jobs will be lost? Well, most of them. How many livelihoods will be affected? Well, most of them. How many minds will be affected? Well, most of them. And so live every day like we've got a few years left. Seriously, it's kind of like it is a bit of a doomsday call. I don't know if that's the right word, but it's a bit like I don't know. I feel like I just have to say this. I feel like I have to at least tell people from my point of view is don't take yourself so seriously. Don't take life so seriously and enjoy these precious few years that we have. And I think that's what you would also say to the previous generation. Think about the people before. Imagine going in a time travel machine, going back to the 90s, right? And you could tell anything to those people who, let's say they were, in their 20s in the 90s, right? And in those people in the 90s were thinking about in the future, we're going to have flying cars and it's going to be, a utopia. Everything's going to be amazing, right? But then a time traveler comes back and says, hey, it's going to be bad. There's going to be a pandemic where they're going to just print money and everyone's going to be poor. There's going to be a financial crisis. There's going to be 9/11. Israel is going to be completely in control of your country. You're going to have insane amounts of crime. It's all just going to get measurably worse, right? They would be like, really? I don't even believe you, right? But if they could have had a time capsule into the future, I think a lot of them would have taken every day with a lot more value. They would have seen the value in every day so much more. Every time they woke up and got out of bed, they would have had 24 hours until they did it again, and those 24 hours would have been infinitely more valuable, and maybe they would have lived their life differently. Maybe they would have done different things. So, yeah, we're living in a simulation, and the simulation is on a trajectory. And that kind of brings me to what I want to talk about with Charlie Kirk as well. Because Charlie Kirk, you could argue, was planned. That whole thing, you could argue, has been planned for a very long time. Because of the movie Snake Eyes. The Snake Eyes movie was I haven't seen the Snake Eyes film, but people who and do understand it were basically saying that there are way too many similarities for it to be a coincidence. And so if that was released like years ago, then they already knew that Charlie Kirk was going to get assassinated because it was part of the plan. Hypothetically, this is kind of like a hypothetical, I'm not saying anything, just for YouTube century purposes, right? I'm not saying anything. But they maybe knew that this was going to happen, right? So, and what I'm seeing with this whole Charlie Kirk thing is people on the internet fighting so much, like this real human energy, this negative energy that's being, transferred, I guess, or kind of like, I don't know how to describe it, on the internet between people. Like I saw a video of Tim Pool going off on Candace Owens, and loads of people are getting really annoyed at Candace Owens, and then Nick Fuentes is just going off and getting really annoyed, and there's other people getting really annoyed, and Candace Owens has dedicated 3 months now to uncovering the truth about what happened to Charlie Kirk. But the problem is that, as I say, there's reason to suggest that this was already pre-planned. And Candace Owens, to me, is a political actor. She's not somebody who is genuinely organic. She's not somebody who is like coming up through the media and is genuine and sincere. I believe that she is part of the deep state and she's an actor, and she's basically just one of these people that is like feeding you the slop that they want to feed you, right? Because approximately 15 to 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes of research on the internet would tell you that this whole thing is very, very questionable. You know, Erica Kirk especially is very, very questionable, right? So let's go to here, right? So Erica Kirk's granddad, was in the military, fought in World War II, held the position of Grand Chief of the Independent Order of Vikings from 77 to 79, which is a Swedish-American fraternal organization. And he was also the vice president of manufacturing for American Banknote Company, as in the company that has something to do with making the banknotes, printing the banknotes. So that's deep state. That's connected to the Federal Reserve. So you're thinking, okay, you know, vice president of manufacturing at the American Banknote Company. He oversaw production operations when ABN was a key player in global secure printing, managing facilities that produced currency, stamps, and other high security documents for international clients. And then her mother, Erica Kirk's mother, spent nearly 2 decades working for General Electric. Yeah? And General Electric has a subsidiary called the Employers Reinsurance Corporation, which was one of 22 insurers that provided coverage for the World Trade Center during 9/11. And we all know about that insurance thing that happened in 9/11, right? And then if you do just a tiny bit more research, you'll find this video. Take a listen to this.
Hey, can I ask a question? It's maybe off topic. How did your mom choose Phoenix?
So she chose to move to Phoenix from Ohio because there was more of an opportunity for a female business owner out here, especially from the standpoint of she was getting involved with the government, so Homeland Security and Department of Defense. And so she had other business partners that were out here that were already in that industry, even one that was a mentor of hers. So it was really convenient to be able to come all together in one place to really have that. But my father ended up moving out here as well because my grandparents had a home out in Sun City. And so it took a little bit to get everyone out here. It took several years, but by that time, everyone was out here. So we had a little bit more family than just us.
So clearly, this is a deep state military-industrial complex operation. It doesn't take a genius to work that out. So why is Candace Owens dragging this on for 3 months? I just have to ask the question. And then you think about Candace Owens. Who is Candace Owens? Well, she came up on Jewish Money, PragerU, Daily Wire. She started out originally by suing people for racism. She is married to George Farmer, who donated to Reform and the Brexit Party, who got us out of the European Union, which has been a total and utter negative for our country. George Farmer's dad is Lord Farmer, who's in the House of Lords, and he's a massive donor to the Conservatives, which is the deep state. He was the treasurer of the Conservatives, which is the deep state, and he's literally in the House of Lords. So she is clearly the deep state. Not to mention, she's in an interracial marriage. And it's like, I do believe there is something in that, where it's like this black woman that everyone's listening to. Look. Listen to this black woman tell you about what happened to Charlie Kirk. It's like almost cuckold behavior to an extent. And then on the other side, you got Fuentes. Because that's insane, right? What she's talking about with Egypt and all of that, it's like, you don't need to go there. You don't need to talk about that. All you need to understand is that it's a military operation, and therefore you're never going to know who the killer is, because the people who are supposed to be finding out who the killer is are the same ones who did the killing in the first place. So you're never going to know who did it, so you're wasting your time. Not really, though, because she's grifting and making a lot of money, and she's also leading people this way, you know? Away from Erica Kirk. That's what she's doing. She's leading people away from Erica Kirk. And then what Fuentes is doing is leading people away from any conspiracy whatsoever and leading people towards the mainstream narrative. Why, though? Because Fuentes is actually intelligent. And if you've got any doubts about the what actually happened there, I would encourage you to go to Ian Carroll's website, or rather YouTube channel, and watch this video. And if you watch this video, right, you're going to come to the conclusion that the mainstream narrative was a lie. The video is called, it's the most recent one, Nick Fuentes thinks the FBI is telling the truth and now I have questions. You're going to come to the conclusion that it was not the mainstream narrative just because of the gun alone, the narrative about the weapon that the guy used. And so it's very easy to come to the conclusion that it wasn't the mainstream narrative. So you don't need to listen to Candace Owens' tirade about all of this crap and all of this nonsense, because it's just completely irrelevant and there's no gain from it. You know, talk about Erica Kirk. And as I said, you got people like Tim Pool, who is most likely Israeli owned because of his attitudes towards the whole Israeli thing, who is getting a bit pressed about it, getting a bit pressed about the whole situation. And yeah, it's just people going back and forth, really. And end of the day, you know, it's kind of like we're arguing about this, or the Americans are at least, whilst the AI race just keeps going. It's like, distract everybody as much as possible so that the AI advancement and the AI development can go as far and far as possible without anyone really talking about it. And then if people do talk about it, make sure that they're led one way or the other and they don't really think about why in the future it's going to be a big problem. So yeah, and then obviously you've got the absolute shambles, which is our politics in the UK. And, you know, I mean, Piers Morgan, you could technically say is, you know, maybe he's focused more on American politics. I don't know. That's up to you. You can make your decision on that. And, you know, another thing I'm going to back up my point here with is this, you know, this whole distraction idea is that Fiona Rose Diamond... who organized the original demonstration against digital ID, has been like beefing, I guess you could say, with Tommy Robinson, because Tommy Robinson's got this protest or this, you know, Christmas thing on the 13th of December, and Fiona Rose Diamond has organized a digital ID protest on the same day, but she had done it before. And it's like Tommy Robinson's pushing civil war. Like, he's trying to have civil unrest between Christians and Muslims, or Muslims and non-Muslims in the UK. And, you know, he's masquerading as a Christian. Obviously, Tommy Robinson's a big anti-Islam person. But he's spoken a little bit about digital ID, but he doesn't really talk about AI and the digital technocracy coming around the corner. And so there's another example of someone who is distracting people away from the digital ID concern by putting on this, put the Christ back in Christmas. You know, why can't we put the pagan back in? Why can't we put the Yule log back in Christmas? You know, you want to talk about, you know, English heritage. Why don't we put the Yule log back in Christmas? That's what I don't understand. So yeah, and that's what we're seeing. And then, you know, you've got this whole conversation about race and immigration. And, you know, I think everybody understands now that immigration is a problem, and everyone understands that... I don't even need these on anymore. Everybody understands that, you know, we've got a mad small boat crisis, and nobody needs to tell us that anymore. You know, we don't need to be told that anymore. We don't need to hear about it. What can we do about it? Well, nothing. Are we going to vote our way out of it? Well, no, because if we vote for another party, then they're still gonna keep doing the same thing. And so, all you can really do is address the root cause, which is the people above the political scene, the people above politics, the people who are not actually able to be seen, right? And those are the ones, or even the ones that can be seen. For example, like Elon Musk. Big problem that we've got is that Elon Musk is being revered as an idol, when in reality he is the enemy. When you revere a false idol, you fail to realize your enemies, and people are revering a false idol in Elon Musk. And Elon Musk says the future is autonomous, and he says that everyone's going to be replaced by robots. And you think that has nothing to do with digital ID? You think digital ID has nothing to do with AI surveillance? And the New World Order, smart cities. The national lottery in this country is controlled by a company that is helping to develop smart cities in the Czech Republic. So it's almost kind of inevitable. But we're all talking about religion and immigrants and race. Why? Because the immigrants in this country, whether they get deported or not, you know, let's say we do deport all of the immigrants. Let's say we have it Steve Law's way, where we deport all of the immigrants. Well, we're still going to become useless eaters regardless, because there's an AI race between the West and China. You know? So it makes you think that, is this guy some kind of operative? Are all these people operatives that are talking about immigration constantly? And because if you're in the media and you're talking about these issues and you're genuinely curious, you would reach the point of AI. You would get there and think, oh yeah, AI. Yeah, okay. And then you might start listening to some AI podcasts, and you might start listening to some AI insiders and see what they say about AI and what the future is of it. So it seems to me like a little bit of a distraction. This whole immigration talk, the whole race realism talk. You know, what does race realism do? Maybe people are becoming more racist. Okay. Then is it more or less likely that there's going to be civil unrest? Probably more. Therefore, there's more of an excuse to employ, you know, these tyrannical measures, you know, AI surveillance, to address all of that stuff. So, yeah. Anyway, let's take a look at the chat. Let's see what the chat are saying. Bro, still going on about AI. You don't think UK got bigger problems? AI is a global issue. Well, you've contradicted yourself in your chat. You're saying the UK has got bigger problems. AI is a global issue. AI is a global issue. What are we? We live on a globe. Well, some people say differently, but we live in the world in the earth. So if AI is going to affect us, it's going to affect everybody. So yeah, like obviously, but then you're wrong to say that the UK has got bigger problems. Why you know, why do you think it is that we're constantly told from the Jewish media about immigration as opposed to the rise in AI and the threat of AI? You very rarely hear it. You only hear it from alternative media sources. And even if you do hear it from alternative media sources, you don't hear the extent to which it's really going to be a problem. Maybe you'll hear it from David Icke, but everybody's written David Icke off as a lunatic conspiracy theorist. AI is a huge problem, and if you don't think it is, that's a testament to the power of the media, and it's working on you. And if you think that immigration is a bigger problem, okay, as I just said, if you remove all of the immigrants, you're still going to be a useless eater regardless. You're still going to have no freedom. You're still not going to be able to live in a free society like it used to be. So you need to address both of those issues. You can't just focus on the one and not the other. AI is a huge problem. It's the epitome of anti-human. And so, you know, it's extremely complacent to think that it's not a problem for the UK, because when you've got all of these crimes, when you've got all of this immigration, it's a problem that there needs to be a solution for. And the solution will be AI technocratic dystopia. That's what their excuse is going to be, right? It's going to be, well, look at all of this crime. And so that's why you hear propaganda that Piers Morgan will tell you about white people committing crime, because, you know, they'll gaslight you about it being immigrants, but then they'll say, well, look at the crime rate, we need to do something about it. And all of the people, you know, Larry Ellison said that all of the people are going to be on their best behavior. Larry Fink, CEO of BlackRock, said that declining populations in developed countries will find the AI transition smoother. Larry Fink is BlackRock rather, is part of the small boat crisis. Nigel Farage is part of the small boat crisis via Brexit. And so you want to vote for reform because immigration's bad? Okay. Let's see how that works. I don't think that's going to work. Have you heard of The Last Man? No. I think that's what will happen. Even if it's a losing battle, still fight. No, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, I'm saying you still want to resist digital ID. You still want to have non-compliance. But you want to understand that every day has a lot more value than you're giving, that you're assigning to it. Each day has more value than what you might have perceived in the first place, than what you might have perceived a year ago. And that's because of what the future is going to look like after 2030. If you're not using AI, you're a loser. This is the most third world shit I've ever heard. If you're not using AI, you're a loser. No. I think if you are using AI, you're a total and utter loser, and you don't understand the beauty of life. Why would you use AI? Using AI is good for researching things. That's basically it. You know, what else are you gonna use AI for? People are already watching full AI generated videos. Okay. Hello, Anglo Redcoat. Hope you're doing all right. You think the juice is a bigger problem than the most peaceful religion? Of course. Who do you think created the most peaceful religion? Who do you think's manipulating the most peaceful religion? Who do you think's funneling the most peaceful religion into the West? It's the juice religion. Nick is Christian, you know. Yes, I do know. Bro isn't black or white pill, blood is grey pill. The prospect of an AI technocracy is disturbing. AI will make everyone the same person. True, and it will remove personalities. That's exactly right. It will get to a point where everyone thinks that, well, everyone does think the same already. You might have heard the term NPC. Everybody kind of is an NPC already. But imagine when everyone's getting their information from AI. Elon Musk is on record saying that you'll have a phone that's just AI. And you won't even need the user interface, you'll just have AI. Because you won't need a phone. What's going to happen to the mind of the average person at that point? There will be no humanity left. We won't even be humans at that point. We'll be basically just these droids, these walking, talking, droid flesh, human AI combinations. That's what it's going to be. So, what immigrant is doing that to you? So yeah, and yeah, so we need to understand that. And yeah, I think that people, if you want to have a protest, I think it needs to be around mass non-compliance because of AI. No digital ID and nothing like that. Because digital ID is where it ends. If digital ID doesn't happen, then none of it happens. And so you need to go to the protest on the 13th of December. That's what I will be going there, and you should go there. And it's a bigger concern, and also what's unique about the AI rejection is that it's a universal problem. As you said, it's a global problem, so it affects everybody. Maybe the immigrants coming here affects the natives or the people who already live here, but the people who are even coming here are affected by AI, whether they realize it or not. The people in Vietnam and in Western Europe and in Eastern Europe and in Australia and in Canada and America and South America are all affected by the AI rise and the AI race. Chinese people, Japanese people, these Asians are all affected by the AI rise. And we already know that they have plans to reduce the amount of people on the planet. That's just a fact. They've openly talked about it for a very long time. And so, to say that it's overhyped is a testament to how powerful the media is at manipulating your mind and making you look over here when the problem's really over here. Where is the protest? The protest is... it's outside the BBC Broadcasting House, Portland Place in London. Postcode is W1A1AA. BBC Portland Place. That's where you should be. That's where you should go. That's where I'll be going because it's necessary. And yeah, this deep state asset, Tommy Robinson, will be holding a protest at the exact same time, which is just a further testament to why you can't trust this Israeli shill at all. And look, people say, well, it's deeper than the Jews. It's deeper than Israel. And maybe that's true, right? But fundamentally, what we're dealing with here is Tony Blair, Larry Ellison, and the reconstruction of, or the construction and the furtherance of Greater Israel. Larry Ellison is buying up the media. Larry Ellison donated lots of millions to the Tony Blair Institute, who has the software for the BRIC card, digital ID. That's not a conspiracy theory. That's clearly just evidence right before you. Just you can take a look. I mean, maybe I can put it up right now for you. Larry Ellison. Oh man. Larry Ellison Foundation has donated or pledged at least $257 million to the Tony Blair Institute. Tony Blair is the man pulling the strings of Starmer to make digital ID. You might have noticed also that the NHS is non-functional, and they'll sell digital ID with that also. They'll say, hey, the NHS doesn't work, and if we can use digital ID and harness all of your data, then we can make the NHS a lot better. Do you know what they're also going to do? They're going to use the data on your smartwatch in order to predict health concerns. Now, I don't think I've ever heard anyone else say this, but they've talked about pre-crime, predicting crime, and they are going to predict poor health, disease. And they're going to say, with this information, we're going to make the NHS so much more efficient and it's going to run smoother. All of this information, Palantir, Peter Thiel, it's all connected. So yes, there is an element of the Jewishness to it, of course. Peter Thiel, Larry Ellison, Israel, Netanyahu, buying up all the media. Can you stop them from buying up all the media? And here's where, you might get a bit conspiratorial. Because they want JD Vance. And they need JD Vance. And I think they're going to get JD Vance. But if the new right-wing movement has anything to say about it, especially in America, then JD Vance might be very unpopular. So they might just assassinate Donald Trump before the midterms. Probably not, though. I don't know. But they might just, or impeach Donald Trump, or they'll do something to remove Donald Trump from the White House, so that they can have JD Vance. I don't know. Because Donald Trump's been a very good goy for them. He's been a good Shabbos goy. So you have to think about that. But you seen the guy that can play chess with the AI chip in his brain? I haven't. Where is the protest? You got a smartwatch? I don't have a smartwatch. Has Nick spoke about this? You need to stop idolizing Nick Fuentes and anyone in the media. I believe he spoke. I don't know if he's spoken about digital ID. Maybe he has, maybe he hasn't. I don't know for sure. I don't know if he's talked about Larry Ellison's connection to Tony Blair Institute. Maybe he has. I don't know. But you need to stop idolizing anybody in the media as like the be-all and end-all of political commentary, because they are most likely controlled opposition. As I've said in my previous simulation episodes, they are, generalizing people as controlled opposition is generally the best thing to do. So, yes, 2026 will be wild, and I would keep an eye out for Donald Trump, because I think Donald Trump has been a very good Shabbos Goy. He's coming to the end of his life. He's not looking so good. And they need J.D. Vance in there. And if here's the thing, right, is that J.D. Vance might struggle to win an election in 28 if he hasn't had any previous experience in the in like politics. But what might happen is they remove Donald Trump, whether it's an assassination or whether it's an impeachment, and then J.D. Vance will get in, and then he will seem based. He will seem like he has the American interest at heart. So then everybody votes for him in 2028. Because he's taken over Donald Trump, and he's done maybe a few good things, maybe a few good policies. Maybe he's deported a few million people. Maybe he's changed a few laws and stuff like that. But yeah, I do think that something will. I think most likely. Look, I mean, they assassinate people all the time. It's not completely unreasonable to say that they'll assassinate Trump, but I think they'll probably maybe they'll impeach him. I don't think he's going to last the whole term. So. Anyway, that's going to do it for me with this episode. In conclusion, enjoy every day. Take every day like it's an absolute blessing. I know you've heard it 1,000 times before, but it's so important in the times that we live in, because we are getting closer and closer to our freedoms being completely and utterly wiped away and never to be seen again. And if we don't resist digital ID, which is kind of unlikely, but maybe it can happen, we do need to fight back. It's not to say don't fight back. We do need to fight back, but just kind of also think about the fact that it's very likely that after 2030 our freedoms will be mostly removed, and so the time that we're living in now is infinitely more valuable. So make of that what you will. Don't take yourself and life too seriously, and have a little bit of enjoyment. Enjoy life, you know what I mean? Don't go to university and do a degree. If you are in university, you're probably best off dropping out. Don't take my advice on that though, No, but take my advice on the first part, do what you want about university, but think about the fact that most university degrees will become pointless very soon. They're distracting you with digital ID. Oh my. Don't even rage bait me. Are you rage baiting me? You're rage baiting me. Seriously. So Fiona Rose Diamond is distracting me with digital ID, and Tommy Robinson is the freedom fighter not distracting me with religion and Islam and immigration. Okay. Sounds totally coherent. You're right. GB News always talks about AI. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So I will be live. So I'm going to be doing. So I've actually figured out my schedule. I will be live Wednesday to Saturday. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Oh, I should probably do this next week actually, because I'm going out on Friday, and I'm going out on Saturday. So we'll start the schedule next week, but it will probably be Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. But I will be going out Friday and Saturday. On Friday, I'll probably have a bit of IRL content for you, and Saturday. Friday and Saturday, I'll have some IRL content for you, so look out for that. Until then, have a great rest of your evening, and enjoy every moment of every day, like our freedom's expiring in 2030. But keep fighting, resist digital ID, do not comply, spread the word, tell a friend, tell a neighbor, tell a family member. And until tomorrow, I'll see you tomorrow, yes. So take it easy, everybody.